My name is Juan, and today we're going to learn all about composting. Now, this is part of a series of videos that we're releasing all throughout the month of April, celebrating Earth Day. And this is going to lead up to this big, grand video that's going to be released on April 22nd, where we're going to do a very fun activity that is also being sponsored by the City of Anaheim's Public Utilities. So I hope you join us then, but for now, let's get started with composting. Now, you're probably wondering, what is composting? Now, composting is this natural process that happens primarily in nature where forests grow, or there's a lot of trees and a lot of plants. And what typically occurs is dead plants, dead leaves, dead branches fall to the forest floor. And then over time, they get covered by dirt, they get covered by other things, animals eat away at them, and eventually they get broken down into nutrients that other plants are able to use to grow big and strong, and even animals. In fact, composting is very important because the very vitamins and minerals that we get from eating food like this can come from composting. Now, I'm going to show you how to make your very own composting bin using materials that you probably have at your home right now. Typically, when you're composting, you need a couple of key things. First, you're going to need a bin. Now, you can get a bin just about anywhere. A plastic bin will probably be best. One of the things you're going to need to do to that bin is you're going to need to drill holes into it so that way air can circulate, but we'll cover that later. You're going to need green stuff that's still relatively healthy and alive, so vegetable peelings. You don't have to put in a whole carrot. In fact, when you're cutting up and making a salad or something, or making a smoothie, get the peel of a banana peel or the leftover skin of an apple and start collecting it over time, and you can use that for composting. You can also use other things like newspapers, dead leaves that you get from your front lawn, coffee grounds, some dirt, water, and my wiggly friends right here, worms. One of the key reasons we need all these materials is because these will all serve as food for the microorganisms that we're going to introduce into our compost bin. These microorganisms will come naturally, they'll see the food and they'll be like, ooh, this could be very good. And that's why even worms will naturally come in when you place this in the ground somewhere. Worms will naturally come to your composting bin if you place it outside. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a small amount of dirt to serve as our first layer. I'm going to make a nice even layer of dirt. Typically, if you were truly composting, you would use dead, dried out leaves or dried out plants that you have in your yard or your back, your front yard, or anywhere you would find. But in this case, we're going to be using newspapers. Now, this is still very good for the earth because you're recycling. And the reason we're using these materials is because they are a great source of carbon. Now, carbon is some of the stuff that some of our worms will eat later, and some of the microorganisms like to eat. Newspapers are surprisingly good for composting. So what you want to do is, if you have a newspaper or paper, just regular paper, rip it up into tiny pieces, and start spreading it all over your composting bin. So when the microorganisms get to the newspaper, they're going to break it down to carbon. Now we're going to add another layer of dirt before we add anything else. So now for our fourth layer, this is the part where we add things that contribute nitrogen. Now, nitrogen is a very important part of the carbon-nitrogen ratio that we need to keep. So everything you see before you, from the coffee grounds to the vegetables, contain nitrogen. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of everything. Even this paper from the coffee filter can be added in. So broccoli, tomatoes. Now, one of the key things is that you do not want to use moldy food. So mold will kill any plants, any microorganisms that might grow in this, and then you wouldn't be able to eat the food inside. Another thing you do not want to eat or use is anything with salt. Salt is very bad for the earth. It will make sure that nothing grows there for a very long time, along with oils or meats or dairy, because meats, fats, dairy will attract animals, so your dog or your cat might start digging, thinking that there's a nice snack in here, not realizing that it's your compost bin. Alright, so we added all of our green stuff that's going to contribute our nitrogen. Next part we're going to do is we're going to add some water, just a sprinkle. As mentioned earlier, one of the key ingredients is water and air. When you drill the holes into your composting bin, you can also buy a compost bin with holes in it. That's so like air can come in, bring in some oxygen, keep these little guys that are squirming all over my table alive. The water's to keep everything moist, but make sure you don't add too much water. The water will contribute to the smell. Composting is a smelly business. And we're gonna add some more dirt. A lot of dirt, actually. All right. And finally, we're gonna need some volunteers for this next job because there's no dirt around here, so let's grab our volunteers.
Yeah.
Now, these little guys are going to burrow down because they like to be underneath the dirt. They don't like to be on the surface because that's where predators can get them and eat them. So they'll burrow down and they'll start eating all the stuff we just placed for them. And what they're gonna get put out is compost. And that's gonna give the dirt here a lot more vitamin, a lot more nutrients and stuff for them, for plants to then grow from. So let's add that final layer. And there you go, you just created your very first composting bin. Now, we're not done. Composting takes a very long time. It takes up to maybe a month, up to 2 months of it just sitting there, collecting microorganisms, collecting compost from the worms. Every once in a while, you may want to add another fresh layer of vegetable peelings or dirt or nitrogen or paper, dead leaves, just so that way they have something to eat. And every so often, what you're going to want to do is you might want to turn everything over. So you're gonna scoop it up, move what's from the bottom to the top, from the top to the bottom. This is just to keep everything fresh. And then, but you're not done yet. One of the key things you need to do is you need to keep this outside, just because it will start to smell. It can get hot. One of the other things you have to consider is it can't be too hot, it can't be too cold. You might want to have to add water every so often just to keep it fresh. And like I said earlier, you want to have holes drilled in. Typically, with a composting bin, what you'll do is you'll place a lid that'll also have holes drilled in. Seal it tight. That way it just stays all here, self-contained. But since we don't have any holes drilled in, we're gonna leave it open like this. All sorts of fun things can come from composting. Now, I hope you guys had a lot of fun. We would love to see any compost files you guys create, so if you could, please share it with us on our social media using the hashtag @AnaheiMSteam. We hope to see you on April 22nd, where you get to see our very special public utilities / library team up, and we hope you had a lot of fun. Have a great day. See you next time. Bye-bye.